How's it going? Dave from Comic Book Investments. So this has to be one of the worst stories I've ever heard from a grading company, and it comes from CBCS, not CGC. I know you guys are surprised, but it's bad. I feel for the guy. I've been in a similar situation, but not as bad as this. And the guy has, customers and things like that. So it's not even his books. I mean, a lot of it is, but a lot of it isn't. So really, really bad. If you guys don't know, Tales from the Flip Side, he had this post on his Instagram. I think I talked to him before. And what happened was he submits exclusively, he says right here, for almost 7 years, exclusively to CBCS. And they recently admitted right here, he got a message from the president last night advising that they have lost 367 of his books from back in July of 2021. 367, which he says is 7 submissions of books gone. He doesn't know where they are. They don't know where they are. That sucks. I feel bad for the guy. If you guys don't know, I had a similar story about CBCS years ago, probably a year or two when they first started, and they lost 2 of our books, completely lost them. They ended up giving us like coupons for discounted rates or something, or I can't remember. It's been so basically they lost I think $500 worth of stuff, and they gave us $500 in free grading fees. But still, it's I'd rather have those books. But that's one of the last times we used CBCS, because CGC is misplaced books, not knowing where they are, but eventually finds them, or they've done a bunch of crappy things. But we have always gotten our books. I've never actually physically lost a book from CGC, at least none that I can remember. But CBCS did, and so then we're like, eh. And then, among other things, was the reason why we stopped using CBCS. Just forewarning you guys, if you guys don't know, my dad recently got a job at CBCS. So I guess my judgment is going to be tainted. But he just started, I think, about a month ago, or maybe a month and a half ago, or something like that. So just letting you, forewarning, getting that out of the way. Now, let's just read the story. So he's been talking to the back and forth. No one seems to know what they're doing. They lost it. He even says everyone's clueless. He said over the years he's probably submitted, 25,000 comics to them. So he's, a big time submitter, a really big time. And since then, they've been nothing but issues after issues, excuses after excuses, ignoring my messages for days, weeks. You shouldn't do that. Why are you ignoring them? So he had to basically bounce around his account, hey, give me to someone that actually knows what they're doing. And he feels like a lot of his people are they worked on cards, because they're owned by Beckett, and Beckett does sports cards. And they just, throw them into comics, and they really don't know what's going on with comics, all this kind of stuff. Now, on top of that, CBCS was moving. So this was also during the time when they were trying to move. This one, in May, I was informed that CBCS was having difficulty locating approximately 188 books under 5 submissions. But then they told me, hey, we're moving soon, and all your submissions will be located and bumped up and rushed. It's just a zoo. We're trying to get everything done before they move. So they're using that as an excuse. And I'm like, what kind of system do you have? You think you'd have something in place? Why are you losing people's books? You need to have a better system. But here's one of the craziest things in the story. Already they've lost the book. They admitted to losing the book. He has to go through a whole, thing of trying to get his money back and all that kind of stuff. So he's like, here's where it gets absurd and makes me want to absolutely vomit. Upon pressing the situation further, I was finally informed that last summer they were behind, and someone at CBCS had the brilliant idea of taking submissions delivered to their headquarters in Dallas and then reshipping them to an employee out of state to assist them from their home in receiving comics in the CBCS system, and then sending them back to Dallas for grading. So I'm thinking when he says for grading, meaning encapsulating. But no one could tell me when my books would be done. And believe me, I spoke to several employees. Also, at the time, they assured me they're moving in a few weeks, in a few months, and they would be moved, and all the comics would be safe then. So here's CBCS. They're backed up, and they go, you know what we should do? Let's send them to Billy Bob, out, who knows where Billy Bob lives, out into another state, to their home. You grade all these books. They didn't say they sent his books. They just sent a bunch of books. A bunch of submissions. Send it, and Billy Bob will grade them and then send them back to Dallas. You'd think when someone is dealing with very expensive items, you could have AF-15 in this submission. They sent apparently a bunch of submissions, not just his, but a bunch of people's submissions. You could have an AF-15 in there, and that could be, $10,000, $20,000, $50,000. At least when it's in their headquarters at Dallas, you have cameras. So if an employee decides, an AF-15 and an 8.0, that's $100,000. Put it in my coat and go away. You have cameras and you can see this, and then you could, call the police and all this kind of stuff. When it's going to someone else's home, you have no security. What if the guy drops it, misplaces it, steals it, all that kind of stuff? I'm not saying they would steal it. You probably trust this person. I would assume you trust this person if you're sending it to their home. And then they're grading from home. What if they don't, at the headquarters, they have systems in place where it's like, okay, you take it from here, you grade it in this room, and then from this room, you input it, and then that goes to that person, and then it goes to grade and all this kind of stuff. This person would be grading in their home, and I'm like, oh, look, lasagna's ready. Goes, eats lasagna, comes back, oh, whoops, greasy hands all over it. Whoops, my bad. Or they could be grading, and then they watch TV, and then they are like, oh, I'm gonna grade in the TV room because I want to watch the game. And they're grading in the TV room, they set it somewhere, and then they forget where they set it, or they misplaced it, and there goes one book out of that order, or who knows what. That's not very professional. It's not like you're dealing with things that are $3, $2. You're dealing with things that could be thousands, if not tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And to me, it just seems that is the worst possible way. You're behind, so you just send it to someone who's out of state. And why are they out of state? And if they're working for you, I'm confused. Is this an ex-employee or a retired employee? Someone's just helping out? Just accept the fact that you're going to be even more behind. I guarantee you this person, Tales from the Flip Side, would rather be later than missing, right? It's oh, sorry, it's going to take an extra 3 months. Yeah, you're pissed, but at least you get your books. Again, this guy lost over 367 submissions. And then, of course, he gets an email saying from the president, still hopeful at this point, and, he's like, I'm unfortunately not confident in the ability to locate these, and I'm moving on to the next phase of dealing with their likely ability to do so. So moving on to the next phase means he's going to have to, try to get his money back. But then that's a massive hassle, right? What are they worth? If you have a 9.8 and said book, could be worth $1,000. If it's a 9.6, it could be worth $300. Well, what is it? A 9.6 or a 9.8? Well, you don't know because it never got graded. So they're guarantee you CBCS is going to give you the lower end. How are they even going to, what are they going to do? It's hey, you send us, so-and-so book. How much was it worth? Well, I don't know. It depends on what you would have graded it. Okay, well, what did you think it was going to be? Oh, I thought it was going to be 9.8. Well, I'm not going to, CBCS is all the books are 9.8s. Sure. No, I'm not going to trust you. We're just going to give you, I don't know what when you fill out the tier system, that goes how much they're insured for. So if, for example, if you send something in a tier and it's basically it's $500 and under, basically it's insured for $500. So they're going to have their insurance go through, and now you're going to have to wait forever to get that money back because you have to deal with insurance. It's not like they're oh yeah, sure, let me just pay you day one. No, they're going to take probably months, if not years, just pay you out. On top of that, it was customers' books. That's the worst part. That is literally the worst part. It was his customers' books. Now he has to tell these customers, hey, that book that you sent me? CBCS lost it. And I'm sure their customers are going to be mad at CBCS, but they're also going to be mad at him. So he probably lost a lot of future business because he's dealing with other people's books. They're going to be like, yeah, they're going to be mad at CBCS for sure, but they're still going to be mad at him because they gave it to him. It's his responsibility, even though it was out of his hands. But it doesn't matter. In the customer's eyes, they're going to look at that and be like, last time I sent him stuff, he lost it. And that was, some of these books might be one of a kind. He says in here that some of them are signatured and all that kind of stuff. Well, how do you get the signature back? Well, you have to go to another con, spend all that time. And if it's Rob Liefeld, you have to spend another $1,000 to get a signature. It's not $1,000. That's a joke, but it's expensive to get a signature. So, yeah, that just sucks. I mean, in that situation, it's like the worst part is the fact that it's other people's books. It would break my heart if something happened to another customer's book and, I couldn't replace it. He says he's going to try to replace most of these as possible, but again, yeah, it just sucks. I feel bad for this guy. So if you are a customer of his, I would try not to put the blame on him. I know you're probably hurting right now because you just lost your book, not to mention you've been waiting over a year. He said this was from July of 2021. We're now in August of 2022. So not only been forever, but that. So, and here's the thing. This kind of stuff is going to happen with both companies. It sucks that it happened to him, and it was so many. 7 submissions seems a bit much. Losing a book here and there seems much more likely. Losing 7 submissions and trying to blame it because you moved, well, that's your own fault that the company moved. It's a lot to lose. That's a lot. I imagine 367. It wasn't just, I doubt he sent it in one giant box. He probably sent them in multiple boxes. So you're losing multiple boxes. Now imagine all the other people that don't have an Instagram or YouTube channel or anything like that to talk about how their books got lost at CBCS. Think about that. Like imagine you're some person that sends in 5 books. You're an average collector. You don't have an Instagram. You don't have none of that kind of stuff. Or even if you do, no one's going to read your stuff. And it gets lost. You go, oh, well, there's nothing you can do about it. So, but again, this is going to happen with both companies, CBCS and CGC. He just got really unlucky. I'm sure CGC has lost stuff. It's just kind of the name of the game. But yeah, this is probably the worst story I personally have heard. I've had my issues, but they pale in comparison to this. So yeah. All right. Well, I don't know. Hopefully everything works out for him.